The day the whole village laughed at Amarachi of Umu Ez, nobody expected the laughter to end in screams. It started with a goat. Not just any goat, Chief Dimba's sacred goat. The one believed to sneeze before rain fell and refuse food on days of misfortune. That morning, the goat had escaped its rope, charged straight through the marketplace like it was possessed, and stopped, of all people, in front of Amarachi. Now, Amarachi was already used to people staring. She was tall, where women were expected to be small. Her nose was broad. Her teeth were not perfectly aligned. Her skin, though dark and healthy, was mocked as too village. Children called her ugly blessing. Women whispered when she passed. Men laughed openly. So when the goat stood before her and suddenly knelt, the marketplace went silent for half a heartbeat, then exploded. Ha 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 ha. Even animals pity her. See as goat a great ugliness. Maybe goat thinks she's its mother. Someone laughed so hard they fell off a stool. Amarachi stood frozen, her basket of okra slipping from her fingers, vegetables rolling across the dusty ground. Her ears burned, her eyes stung. She bent to gather them when the goat suddenly leapt, knocked over a pot of palm oil, and splashed red oil all over her wrapper. The laughter turned nuclear. Palm oil on a torn wrapper, dust on her feet, a kneeling goat beside her. She looked like a joke carved by the gods themselves. That was when she laughed too. A soft laugh, then louder, then tears came with it. And that was the moment fate quietly turned its head. If stories like this make you laugh, cry, and rethink life, pause for 2 seconds. Subscribe now. You don't want to miss how this turns out. And while you're here, comment below. Have you ever been judged unfairly? No one noticed the old woman standing at the edge of the market. She was bent like a question mark, her wrapper faded beyond color, her eyes sharp like they had seen many endings. While others mocked, she watched Amarachi carefully, especially the way she laughed at her own humiliation. When the crowd finally dispersed, the old woman stepped forward. "Child," she said, her voice dry like harmattan wind, "why do you laugh when the world throws stones?" Amarachi wiped her face. "If I don't laugh, Mama, I will break." The old woman nodded slowly. Then she reached into a sack that looked older than memory and pulled out something strange. A pair of trousers. Not silk, not gold. Just simple cloth, deep indigo, stitched with symbols that shimmered briefly like heat on sand. "Wear this," the old woman said. Amarachi blinked. "Mama, is this a joke?" The old woman smiled. "Everything powerful begins as a joke." Before Amarachi could ask more, the old woman was gone, like smoke in sunlight. That night, Amarachi wore the trousers, and the world shifted. When she stepped outside the next morning, birds fell silent. Her reflection in water made her gasp, not because she had become someone else, but because she had become fully herself. Her posture changed, her skin glowed, her presence carried weight. Beauty, not the fragile kind, but the kind that commands respect. People stared, men stumbled, women forgot words. And far away in the royal palace of Obinduka Kingdom, a prince preparing to choose a bride suddenly felt his heart pull, as if something ancient had awakened. The search for a queen had begun, and Amarachi, once mocked, once laughed at, had unknowingly stepped onto the path of destiny. The first person to faint was Nwakaego, and unfortunately for her, she fainted loudly. It was the kind of faint that announced itself, arms flailing, basket flying, yams rolling in all directions, bam, flat on her back in the middle of the path. The village gasped, not out of concern, but because Nwakaego had been Amarachi's loudest mocker. "She will never marry," Nwakaego once shouted. "Even Mirode fear her face." Another day. Ugly thing with pride. Often. Now she lay there like a fallen log, while Amarachi stood above her, confused, frightened, and still wearing the trousers beneath her wrapper. "What happened to her?" someone asked. "She sees spirit," another whispered. "No," a young boy said, eyes wide. She see Amarachi. The silence that followed was thick enough to chew. Amarachi ran. She didn't wait to hear whispers turn into conclusions. She didn't wait for fear to turn into worship or hatred. She ran back to her mother's hut, heart pounding, breath uneven, mind spinning. Her mother Ngozi looked up from grinding pepper and froze. The stone slipped from her hands. My daughter? Amarachi swallowed. Mama, it's me. Ngozi stepped closer, touched her face, her shoulders, her arms. She circled her like she feared she was dreaming. Then she began to cry. Ah, she wailed, sinking to the floor. So the gods have eyes after all. Amarachi knelt. Mama, what happened to me? Ngozi hesitated, then spoke in a low voice. Your grandmother used to tell stories, she said. Stories of the cloth of truth, a garment that does not create beauty, but reveals what the world refuses to see. Amarachi's hands trembled. The old woman, she whispered. Ngozi nodded slowly. No ordinary person gives gifts like that. By evening, Umu Eze buzzed like a disturbed ant hill. She's using juju. She stole beauty. That thing she wore, burn it. No, marry her. Quickly before spell expires. And as fear spread, so did envy, especially in the heart of Lolo Adana, daughter of the richest man in the village. Adana had beauty, yes, but she had always enjoyed being the only one admired. Now people were comparing, and she hated it. 3 days later, the royal gong sounded. Boom, boom, boom. A message echoed across villages. By decree of His Majesty Obinduka IV, the prince seeks a queen, not by face alone, but by heart, wisdom, and spirit. Every eligible maiden was summoned. Adana smiled. Amarachi trembled, because she knew something no one else did. Without the trousers, she feared the world would return its cruelty. Before we enter the palace and secrets begin to unfold, tell me in the comments, should Amarachi reveal the truth about the magical garment or protect it? Like this video if you believe true beauty must be tested. The palace of Obinduka Kingdom was not built for mercy. It was built for judgment. Tall pillars, carved with ancestral faces, watched every step. Drums beat slow, heavy rhythms. Maidens lined up, silk and beads shining, but fear sat beneath every smile. Prince Obina watched from his throne, calm but searching. When Amarachi stepped forward, the air shifted. He felt it, not lust, not excitement, recognition. Their eyes met, and somewhere, deep in the palace walls, something old and powerful stirred. But not everyone was pleased. In the shadows stood Queen Mother Ifunanya, her gaze sharp, calculating. She did not smile. She had seen magic before, and she knew magic always demanded a price. The first trial was announced without warning. No drums, no songs, just a single sentence spoken by the royal herald. Remove your ornaments. Gasps rippled through the courtyard. Beads came off, bangles clinked to the ground, silk wrappers loosened, pride visibly drained from faces that had depended on decoration for power. Prince Obina rose slowly from his seat. My mother, he said, respectfully, will explain. Queen Mother Ifunanya stepped forward, her voice smooth like a blade polished with oil. Beauty that survives only under gold, she said, is not beauty fit for a throne. The maidens were led one by one into a hall lined with mirrors, not ordinary mirrors, truth mirrors. They showed not only faces, but intentions. When Lolo Adana stepped before hers, the mirror shimmered, then revealed her smiling face, overlaid with shadows of sneers, envy, and whispered curses. She recoiled. That mirror is lying, she shouted. The mirror cracked. She was escorted out. One by one, confident maidens crumbled, some into tears, some into anger, some into silence. Then Amarachi stepped forward. Her hands shook as she removed her wrapper, revealing the indigo trousers beneath. A murmur rose. Trouser? Is she mad? Village girl shame. Queen Mother Ifunanya's eyes narrowed. Amarachi stood before the mirror. It did not shimmer, it cleared. What appeared was not perfection, but truth. A girl mocked yet kind, wounded yet forgiving, afraid yet brave enough to stand anyway. The mirror glowed. Prince Obina exhaled. The Queen Mother's fingers tightened around her staff. That night, sabotage arrived quietly. A maid slipped poison into Amarachi's soup, but the spoon cracked before it touched her lips. A rival loosened the ropes of her sleeping mat, but she woke moments before falling. Whispers followed her like smoke. Witch, spirit wife, fake beauty. Amarachi cried alone that night. I did not ask for this, she whispered to the trousers. I only wanted peace. For the first time, the cloth answered, not in words, but warmth, like arms around her waist. The second trial was worse. The maidens were sent to the village of the forgotten, where elders abandoned by their children lived in silence. Care for them, the herald said. We return at sunset. Some maidens gagged at the smell. Others pretended kindness for attention. Amarachi knelt. She washed feet, listened to stories, held trembling hands. One old man pulled her close. You look like someone they would try to erase, he whispered. She smiled sadly. It almost did. When Prince Obina returned and saw elders laughing, for the first time in years, his eyes softened. This, he said quietly, is my queen. From the shadows, Queen Mother Ifunanya watched, fear now creeping into her heart. Because Amarachi was not just winning trials, she was breaking old systems. If you believe kindness is stronger than cruelty, tap the like button now and share this story with someone who has ever been underestimated. That night, the Queen Mother summoned a messenger. Find the old woman, she commanded, the one who gives cloths that change fate. The messenger never returned, because some magic answers only to the wounded. On the final day, only 3 maidens remained, and one truth waited to be revealed. The trousers had one last secret, and Amarachi's greatest trial was still ahead. The final trial did not take place in the palace. That alone terrified everyone. Before dawn, the remaining maidens were led out through the eastern gate, past the farmlands, past the shrines, into the sacred grove of Ani, a place no one entered unless summoned by fate or death. Even the birds avoided it. The earth there was dark, soft, breathing. Prince Obina walked ahead, silent. Queen Mother Ifunanya followed, her face unreadable. Elders chanted softly as they reached the ancient tree at the center, its roots thick as walls, its trunk marked with generations of prayers and blood. The oldest priestess stepped forward. Only one question will be asked, she said. Only one truth must be spoken. The maidens trembled. The priestess's gaze settled on Amarachi. Remove the garment. The world stopped. Amarachi's heart slammed against her ribs. Remove it. Her fingers shook as she reached for the waistband of the indigo trousers. Every memory of laughter, mockery, loneliness rushed back like a flood. Prince Obina took a step forward, but she stopped. This choice was hers alone. Slowly she removed the trousers and stood. Nothing dramatic happened. No thunder, no screams, just Amarachi, tall, broad-nosed, unadorned. Silence swallowed the grove. One maiden smirked, another sighed in relief. Queen Mother Ifu Nanya exhaled sharply. The priestess watched carefully. Speak, she said. Why should the throne choose you? Amarachi swallowed. Her voice trembled but did not break. Because without the cloth, she said, I am still me, and I will not rule from beauty, but from memory. She lifted her chin. I know what it means to be unseen, to be mocked, to be reduced. If I sit on that throne, no child will grow believing they are a mistake, the grove responded. The ground vibrated softly, the tree's roots shifted, and the priestess smiled. The trousers rose from the earth on their own and wrapped gently around Amarachi again. The cloth of truth chooses its bearer. Queen Mother Ifunanya staggered back. That was when betrayal struck. Lolo Adana screamed, "If she becomes queen, we are finished." She lunged, pushing Amarachi toward the sacred fire at the base of the tree. Prince Obina moved without thinking. He grabbed Amarachi and fell instead. Gasps, shouts, chaos. The sacred fire roared. Amarachi screamed his name. The trousers burned, symbols flaring bright as the sun, then dissolved into light, wrapping around both of them. When the fire died, they stood unharmed. The priestess bowed. The throne has chosen. Queen Mother Ifunanya fell to her knees. If this story moved you, don't leave without subscribing. Comment what lesson touched you most and share this with someone who needs hope today. The coronation did not erase whispers. Crowns never do. Even as the sun rose golden over Obinduka Kingdom, even as drums thundered and dancers stamped the earth in celebration, voices curled in corners of the palace like smoke that refused to clear. She used magic. She trapped the prince. The cloth chose her, but what if the cloth was evil? Amarachi heard none of it directly, but she felt it. A queen's crown is heavy, not because of gold, but because of eyes. On the third night after the coronation, Amarachi could not sleep. The palace was too quiet. Not the peaceful quiet of a village night, but the watchful quiet of walls that listened. She rose from the royal mat, wrapped herself in a simple cloth, and walked barefoot to the balcony overlooking the city. Below, fires flickered. Somewhere, a baby cried. Somewhere else, laughter broke out and died quickly, as if afraid of being heard. "You're awake." Prince Obina's voice came from behind her. She turned and smiled faintly. "Queens are allowed to sleep?" He chuckled softly and joined her at the railing. "Not in this palace." They stood together for a moment. Then Amarachi spoke quietly. "They don't trust me." Obina did not pretend otherwise. No ruler is trusted at first, especially one who arrives by shaking old beliefs. She nodded. "I thought once the trousers were gone, once I stood as myself, it would end." Obina turned to her fully. "Magic doesn't end when cloth burns. It ends when fear does." She looked at him, eyes searching. "And when does fear end?" He smiled sadly. "Sometimes never. Sometimes, when someone dares to stay kind anyway." The first real test of her queenship came a week later. A woman arrived at the palace gates with a child strapped to her back and rage blazing in her eyes. She shouted until guards rushed forward. "I demand to see the queen." The guards hesitated. "She says you stole her destiny," one whispered to Amarachi. The woman was brought in. She was lean, sharp-eyed, dressed in fine village cloth. Her voice cut through the throne room like a knife. "My name is Zainab of the Northern Plains," she said. "The prince was promised to my people. My father sent gifts. My dowry arrived before you even stepped into that cursed cloth." Murmurs rose. Amarachi felt heat crawl up her spine. Zainab pointed directly at her. "You bewitched him. You bewitched the trials. You bewitched the cloth." Amarachi stood slowly. She stepped down from the throne. Gasps echoed. "I did not ask for magic," Amarachi said calmly. "I asked for dignity." Zainab laughed bitterly. "And now you have power." "Yes," Amarachi replied, "and power gives me a choice." She turned to the guards. "Prepare guest quarters." Zainab froze. "You will imprison me?" "No," Amarachi said. "I will listen to you." That night, Amarachi sat on the floor, not the throne, with Zainab. They ate from the same bowl. Zainab spoke of political alliances, of promises made by men who never planned to keep them, of how women were treated like goats. "I wasn't angry because you're beautiful," Zainab admitted quietly. "I was angry because you were chosen." Amarachi nodded. "So was I, by something I didn't understand." They sat in silence. By morning, Zainab left, not defeated but seen, and that single act silenced more rumors than punishment ever could. Still, danger crept. Queen Mother Ifunanya had retreated from power, but not from influence. In quiet corners, she planted doubt. She is soft. She listens too much. A queen who remembers pain will hesitate to rule. And perhaps that was true. But hesitation can be wisdom. Months passed. The kingdom changed. Amarachi ordered mirrors removed from judgment halls. Let decisions reflect lives, she said, not faces. She reopened the village of the forgotten. She made mockery a punishable offense in markets, not by flogging, but by public apology. Some laughed at first, then they stopped, because the queen did not shout. She remembered. One evening, during the festival of New Yams, a young girl approached the palace stage. She was awkward, big nosed, thin armed, eyes too large for her face. The crowd shifted uneasily. The girl bowed low and spoke into the open air. They call me ugly, she said. Silence fell. I heard the queen was once called that too. Amarachi stood. She descended the steps. She knelt in front of the girl and hugged her. The crowd broke. Some cried. Some looked away. Some felt something crack open inside them. Years later, long after Amarachi had borne children and scars and wisdom, travelers would ask, was the cloth real? Elders would smile. There was a cloth, they'd say, but the real magic was a woman who refused to disappear. And in Umu Eze, mothers would whisper to daughters at night, stand tall, even without magic, especially without magic, because once an ugly girl wore truth and became a queen. They laughed at Amarachi, called her ugly, and mocked her every day. But a magical garment revealed the truth. Real beauty isn't about looks, it's kindness, courage, and staying true to yourself. Magic may open doors, but character keeps them open. Amarachi's rise to queen shows that empathy, self respect, and compassion are stronger than envy or cruelty. Never let the world define your worth, because the most powerful transformation comes from within. Remember, being seen starts with believing in yourself.